Here, we are diving into another fundamental concept in computer science, fetch, decode, execute cycle. This cycle is how a computer processes instructions step by step. Let's break it down. So what is a fetch, decode, execute cycle? Whenever you perform a task on a computer, whether it is opening a file, running a game, or browsing a web, it follows a process called fetch, decode, execute cycle. This cycle happens continuously inside the CPU and allows your computer to function efficiently. Let's see what all each of these tasks performs here. The first one is fetch. So what happens in fetch is the CPU will fetch an instruction from memory. So fetch instruction from memory. So the instruction is stored in a special register called program counter. You remember there was a register in the CPU, so that is called program counter. So the information what it is fetched will be stored in the program counter, which keep track of which instruction need to be executed next. Okay. In simple terms, the control unit reads the instruction from the memory. The instruction is loaded to the instruction register for processing, and the program counter is updated to point to the next instruction. Now the second step is decode. Here, the CPU need to understand what this instruction means. This happens in this decode phase. So here what happens is the control unit interprets the instruction. It will try to understand what the instruction is meaning, and it determines what operation need to be performed, understands what operation need to be performed, and also what data it is required. What data is required. Okay, think of it like reading a recipe before cooking. You need to understand the steps before you start. Okay. Now third step is execute. So here in this stage, the CPU carries out the instruction in the execute phase. So what happens here is the arithmetic and logic unit will perform all the calculations or the logical operations. Now the data transfers might happen between the memory and the registers, and the output of the operation is either stored back into the memory or a register. For example, uh, so let me just write that output will be stored back to memory or register. For example, if the instruction was to add two numbers, the ALU will perform the addition of two numbers and the result will be stored back into the memory or a register. Okay. So once the instruction is executed, the cycle starts over. The CPU fetches the next instruction, decodes it and executes it over and over billions of times per second. Now if you want to have a pictorial representation of that, you can write that this is the fetch cycle, this is the execute cycle, and this is the decode cycle. So I can write that fetch will go into execute, decode, it will continue like this. The cycle will repeat again and again. The cycle is the reason computer can process instructions so quickly. Every action from clicking a small button to loading a web page goes through this cycle. Without this, the computer wouldn't function.